Last tutorial we detected a collision with an actor. Now let's make something a bit more interesting. Let's make things catch on fire. So what I'll do is just start and creating a particle effect and adding a particle effect to it. So we'll just actually go and alter my code, and I go back here and do the header file and add a particle system. So I'm going to add a particle system called our particles, and on the CPP file what I'll do is to instantiate it similarly to what I did with the sphere. So I'm going to create a sub-object called fire, attach it to the visual sphere, and I would say that first the auto activate to false. That means that is not going to start automatically. I'm just going to change a bit the relative position, and finally I'm just going to load it directly from the fire asset, and finally I'm going to attach it to our particles. So our particles will be created automatically through this. So all this is there. So the only thing I have to do is when notify hit, I can say if our particles is active. So when hit, when they're not active, I'll just turn the particles on. Activate system. Okay, see if this actually works. Compiling it. Oh, sorry. Here, let's compile it. As a rule of thumb, try not to reuse the same objects if you're altering the code. So when it's compiling, make sure you delete the object you're trying, and when it ends the completion process, then you can just drag and drop the new object and to test it out. So here it is. So I'm going to actually turn off the physics for a moment, so you can see that the particles only trigger when the object actually collides. So currently there's no particle effects, and when I turn the physics on and the collision is triggered, then automatically it triggers and activates the fire. Good thing is, because I created editable, you can, after it is instantiated, this is the particle systems that attach to our sphere, I can alter the particle systems. If I want to have sparks instead of fire, it acts exactly the same way. Now let's associate our own timer to it. So let's stop this process and let's go back to our code, and let's create two different things. One is, let's create a U property that we can edit anywhere, and let's put a category on it. Category, let's call it just fire for starters. Okay, and you call it the float and say playtime particles. Okay, and then a private, which I can just call it float, and counter play time. Okay. So the only thing I did was create two floats. One is will be available and be able to users and designers to edit this variable, and the other one will be a private one that I can only programmers can see. I have to initialize it on the constructor, so I'll just copy paste into here. Let's put, I don't know, the floating playtime to 10, and this will be to 0. Let's take this one out. Oops, this one out. So the playtime particles will be starting with 5 seconds mainly, and the other one will be counter time and will be playtime and will be just initialized to 0. The idea behind this is that when I start my particle system, I'll start my counter to the playtime particles, and then during tick function, if my, I should just copy paste this, if my particle system is active, I'll check if the counter time, I'll reduce the timer, so equal delta time, and if counter plate time is smaller than 0, what I'll do is just convert them to 0, just reset it, and then our particles deactivate system. So this means that I'm not only be able to trigger this effect for the X amount of time that is defined in the editor. So going back to the editor, I'll compile it. Again, rule of thumb, delete the actor, drag and drop the actor into the scene, drag them up, and you're going to be able to see that in my actor I now have a category called fire, and it has a playtime of particles of 5 seconds. So if I start playing, the fire starts, and after 5 seconds it extinguishes himself. And okay, this concludes the first setup for actors, and I'll customize it. In the next video tutorial, we're going to look into components and how we can actually create a similar component that we can attach to multiple and different objects.